And today I'm joined by Donna Purcell, founder and Chief Innovation Officer for Donna Purcell QC Law in Alberta. Donna, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Donna recently was among those named in Canadian Lawyers' top 25 most influential lawyers in the Changemakers category. Donna, firstly, congratulations. How did you feel when you learned of this award?
In terms of being nominated as one of Canada's top 25 most influential lawyers, particularly in the change makers category, I was so delighted. I believe that recognition will assist me in pursuing my goals of being a change maker. I think that is my natural side. I used to think I was an early adopter. Then I realized I'm actually the entrepreneur that likes to get everything started. And so to have such a prestigious magazine in the context of the people that were in my category that are many of my legal heroes, it's been a pure delight. I'm so grateful.
Great to hear. Okay, on a more serious note, what are the key barriers to accessing justice from your perspective?
Well, there's three main barriers. The system, it's resulted in so much complexity that it's difficult to understand the system. The complexity results in things taking too long, and then as a result, when things take more time, they're more expensive. So it's too complex, too expensive, and it takes too long.
And how do these barriers impact those seeking to have their case heard?
Well, it results in many people not using the system at all, or maybe giving it up and not making it there, or trying to do it as self-represented litigants, which then makes it even more complicated and slows down and backlogs the system even more, creating a bit of a vicious cycle.
Thank you. And again, from your perspective, how can legal innovation and legal technology address the problems?
Well, in terms of legal technology, we saw during the pandemic that the financial institutions, the insurance institutions, they managed to sort of pivot really well. And although the court has done a good job of pivoting and it's got excellent people, it's not doing as much of a job because of the concerns with the privacy and all the sort of technicalities involved in the legal system. So legal technology gives you many opportunities in terms of remote courts, and in terms of using potentially digital signatures so that people from long distances can access the system. Also, in the context of remote courts, not only can people be at a distance, the court itself doesn't actually need to have a physical structure for everything. So, in terms of Zoom, you can be in different rooms and there actually not be a physical structure. So that can result in lowering some costs of accessing justice. Also, even in terms of, I think some jurisdictions don't have as many court reporters because of the technology being able to take down your audio very professionally now. So you can save on a lot of expenses by using technology. And in terms of legal innovation, that's more about trying to simplify the system in terms of the steps needed. So there are different pilot projects going on in different jurisdictions, so that if you can, for instance, instead of having to read rules and try to decipher them on your own, even for lawyers in various areas of law or when they're learning, you could have automated documents or instructions that could lead you through the system, so that the exact details don't need to be understood as much from reading things, but they're incorporated into the system to facilitate your access.
Thank you, Donna. Can you also give us some examples of how you've harnessed technology to help create a better system to access justice?
Well, as a result of the pandemic, we were already having me working remotely from around the globe, basically, so I could be places with my children. And as a result of the pandemic, it turned out that my one assistant was already remote because she had had children and then she had moved away, and I didn't see the point of training a new person. So I said, why don't you try remote work as well? And it worked really well. So we had that model where people that, because of the virus, if they had health issues or other issues, they could work completely remotely. So that changed in that everybody was able to do that. In addition, we went to a completely cloud-based practice so that a physical office isn't required at all, except for, as I say, if stuff comes in as paper documents, I don't destroy the evidence, but if it comes in electronically, we're not printing it. So the paper that is involved in this profession can be insurmountable. So by having a completely paperless practice, it saves. You don't need a photocopier at all. You don't need to be using mail and courier, and it just saves an insurmountable amount of time.
Now, though you still have physical offices, what role do they play now that you're so cloud based?
Many important roles. One of the things that I really would like is for the government to make it so that, in terms of wills or affidavits, if people could sign them remotely, because that system really is secure. I know that in Alberta we are getting a digital ID, so that would save people from having to physically attend your premises to sign documents. It's unsafe during the pandemic, but it's also inconvenient, particularly in central Alberta. Our service area may be over 150 kilometers, and people have to travel long distances. And because it's Canada, the roads can be quite brutal, particularly in winter. So those are things that can short circuit things. But otherwise, people need to come to your office as well. There's people that aren't familiar with technology, and you absolutely want to provide them a quality service. And so then you have to accommodate that way. And of course, for the people that work for you, they may have small children at home, or they need a different space to work in. And some people just aren't that agile at working, from home. And the last thing is that we still get a lot of paper. So in terms of gathering evidence, it comes to us often in the mail or by courier. So you need those physical premises still.
So, just to be clear, where are your offices?
So I have my main office is what's known as Gasoline Alley. That's exactly between the two biggest cities of Calgary and Edmonton, and that's also known as Central Alberta. And I have an office in downtown Red Deer, downtown Calgary, and downtown Edmonton.
Thank you. What are your aspirational plans to continue to address the delivery of legal and court services?
Well, what I did is at the beginning of the pandemic, I realized that in my mind, we as a society have developed too many silos, and therefore it's almost like there's nobody in charge. So we need to collaborate more. So I believe that if we can get a collaboration together through all the major players, including the government, the court system, the legal profession, including the pro bono players, as well as the citizens, that we can then use technology and legal innovation to really improve the system and run it more like a business. Because I've been saying that if the justice system was a business, it would be a failed business. And I also sometimes say that in terms of certain businesses, if they, in terms of the fairness and justice within their system, that they would be a failed justice system. So I think the two have to work together. So I went back and attended the Harvard Business Analytics program because I realized I needed more of a business background. So even a case such as operations and supply chain management was an excellent course because it taught you all about the different bottlenecks that you can have in your production assembly, which is the same as the court system in terms of sometimes you may have a courtroom or a certain certain area of law that may be 2 years behind in getting into a courtroom, whereas other things can be heard immediately. So if there was some way to use, some legal innovation to coordinate the systems better, we could deliver better access that way. And as well, when you consider that people have paper files still in many courtrooms and they're trying to get to them, once you turn to paperless, and you have all the systems, the bandwidth, and everything in place, then we can coordinate all the best practices that we found throughout the pandemic to greatly improve access to justice while also likely cutting costs.
Now, when COVID first struck, you brought to action what you knew in terms of remote lawyering. Please tell us what you did in terms of helping other lawyers.
Well, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that, I realized during the pandemic, I recall being fearful of traveling because I'd had a potential virus at one point that was quite problematic. So I was, worried about traveling to faraway places. And then I was actually in Paris when I was watching on social media, something was happening in this market out in Wuhan. And I realized, watching the pandemic and our slow reaction to it, that that we're really a global economy. We're a global, like everything is, we are each other's neighbors, and how we treat the weakest, of course, is the most important. So I found that, I sort of globalized my firm in that I hired a couple of internationally trained lawyers that were trying to get their qualifications here in Canada. And I found that that really broadened my horizons. And the reason why I was able to do that is because I'm mainly in central Alberta. I had an internationally trained lawyer in Calgary, an internationally trained lawyer in Edmonton. And because the Law Society was very helpful in truncating those articles down to 8 months so that I could take on two, and because of the remote nature of what had happened, I was able to mentor them, from afar, because everybody was mentoring their students from afar. So I believe in helping the youth. And the thing is that, they're very entrepreneurial, and it just has expanded my horizons exponentially. As well, I did also got involved with the both universities here, University of Alberta and University of Calgary, because I believe that the shortcomings that we as lawyers have, the youth don't have it so much because they've grown up in a technological world. So the combination of our wisdom and mentorship, combined with the fact that they can do almost everything technologically, meant that we could really change things. So one of the things that I had done, because I just happened to be one of those lawyers that had a remote office for over 20 years, is I immediately instinctually kicked into action and contacted everybody that I knew or could find out about that had some technological skill, including the courts themselves. And we were able to put on a series for through the Alberta Civil Trial Lawyers. We invited all lawyers for free, where we called people, as a 7-episode series, starting from virtual meetings all the way to virtual resiliency, because that's so important in these times. And we were able to have speakers. We'd ask on a Friday, they'd show up on a Tuesday, and we put on a seminar on a Thursday. So the collaboration and the amount of caring there is in this profession is quite remarkable. And then we thought, okay, well, we've helped out all the lawyers we could think of. Let's do a fundraiser for pro bono and help out there too. And we put together this wonderful awareness campaign and a talent show that was called Lawyers versus Talent. And it was just an amazing show. And I think this is in July, at the beginning of the pandemic, and raised some funds for pro bono law. And also, it was amazing how much, as much as the lawyers were so engaged and the judiciary, it was also the citizens that were most engaged, which made me very hopeful to find out that the people really do care about access to justice and the rule of law, not just us lawyers.
That's awesome, Donna. Thank you. And in your own life, how have you used remote lawyering to help your own work life balance?
Well, I think it was essential. I decided back about when I was getting to the age where I have to decide if I'm going to have children or waive that, and I had to figure out, do I keep a career? Do I keep all my community work? Because there's the paid work that we do, but lawyers are also huge volunteers in the community. And so you're on a number of boards for pro bono law, just whatever is out there in the community. And so then I thought, and my husband is a lawyer too. And so I thought maybe I stay at home, maybe I don't have children. And I decided that the world will never change if we keep not giving up. So I decided that because I have a lot of energy and creativity, that I would just make a remote office. Because I'd learned that from my IT guy traveling the world giving IT services. And I thought, well, why can't I as a lawyer do that? So I was able to basically save hours and hours just by turning to technology. It's just a tool. And I was able to have my family, stay in the law, and still volunteer in the community. And that's really what I want to spread a message about. I say I consider myself the original startup, and I found that using technology and having collaborations and with coworkers and all that I was able to work half as many hours, actually make twice as much money. And I think that if we're all smart like that, then my hope with my new firm is that we're going to track all our time and try and figure out a way where we can have a 4-day work week, with the 5th day being more where you can give back to your community. And so we're not stuck in this vicious cycle of the evolution of society taking 100 years. We can expedite that and keep more individuals in the profession, because of course, if there's more supply of lawyers, given there's a huge demand for legal services, that should help everybody.
Twice the revenue for half the hours. That's incredible. Thank you so much, Donna. And congratulations once again. And thank you very much for joining us. We're looking forward to what else is in store for you this year.
It's a huge privilege. Thank you so much.
So that was Donna Purcell, founder of Donna Purcell QC Law in Alberta, explaining the importance of innovation in the legal sector and how it can expand access to justice. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Canadian Lawyer TV.